Hello, and welcome to an adventure like no other. Far more than what you have known, there is something far more to be known than you can ever know. And it is all about you, the real you, your real awareness with your intuitive senses. You were never taught that the real you, your real awareness, is operating 5 bodies in cause and effect, restricting creation. You have been taught to think that you are only a one-dimensional human person, with a mind and emotions, and with a very short lifespan on this planet Earth. More than what your mind can grasp is your intuitive senses that can be opened to see beyond all your restrictions. You have always had an opening to see beyond what you have known, and this has been purposely kept from you, and this is where you have heard rumors and stories about your nightly dreams. Your so-called dreams is your opening to your intuitive senses that will allow you, the personal you, to excel beyond what you have previously known. Everyone has intuitive senses, and very few people take advantage of what is possible by recognizing something more than their mind can understand. Creation has its place for all of us, and then there is all life, which is far more than anything than what can become with creation. Everything we experience is necessary for us to survive with whatever we choose and decide our life to be. New Kevin Smith is the great witness to something more than what can be taught and learned in any school. It can be so that when anyone first listens to Kevin's intuitive side experiences, also known as real side experiences, from what their personal mind has known, Kevin's manner of expression will at first be rather different to comprehend. This is where this introduction and reading the new books and Facebook groups will help. Have fun deciding. Duane the Great Writer and Seer.
This real side experience would begin with me in a random setting of little significance, in the presence of another individual, a middle-aged human female. Impressions revealed, the references pertaining to the years had become known to her personal self. Her real awareness had decided to recognize the isness it is a part of, which is the real purpose the creational simulators serve, that of affording recognition of the true reality through the comparison that everything creational, every idea provides. This real awareness, real intent, had filtered through to its created personal self, and now was the task of aligning the intent of the secondary created self with the real intent of its recognition, an arduous process to be sure. As the personal self, having been established and built upon consciousness-wise for untold lifetimes, and having been predominating as the primary position, with the real awareness a true position somewhat forgotten and disconnected from, so is rather the monumental effort to let the personal free will self go, and step into the reality of that which we actually are, real awareness beings of isness light. As individuals do embark on their awareness processes, as a simulation follows intent, so an intent placed with the ears, and our experiences now will be in accordance to that which facilitates the actualizing of the recognition of the ears. We will be afforded assistance by the real guides, and other aware beings also will be featuring in our experiences, physical level and real side, in whatever supportive capacities they might. For as intent converges, so must experience, and as individuals share the same intent, so they will be more so coming into a conjunction with each other, and those we had been sharing experiences with, those that elect to be retained as the personal self only, so in turn will our experiential situations now diverge from theirs, as their intent remains with the ideas of consciousness, and our intent placed with that which is aside from all created ideas, the true reality, all life is. In this case, I would be featuring in the experience of this human woman her intent placed at that moment with the years, an intent aligning then with those, myself included, on their respective processes of awareness effecting this engagement, and I would be affording her assistance in regards to a particular affliction she had taken on. Everything begins on the real side through the agreements we make, and impacts through to the physical level and physical body forms as it will, the illnesses, the malaises, etc. But as all that we experience, and including in relation to our physical body forms, is based on the agreement idea that affected it, in the case of agreements that are, or will be, impacting the physical form adversely, it's just a case of recognizing, facing, and releasing the agreement as absent of the idea, and there can be no effect that follows. Additionally, for whatever reason, we may also formulate the agreement that the idea that is adversely debilitating us can only be removed by the hand of another. In reality, as I said, we have but to sever the agreements that are effecting as unsavoury circumstances, and we are removed from them as the deciders of everything we experience. And even if we do have the agreement idea installed that only others can remove a certain agreement affecting malaises, we still are overall deciding the removing of the agreement ourselves, but are affording the role that others can assume where our physical body healings are concerned. Although, as we decide to assist in such a way, we are effectively taking on their karma, taking on the agreement that was effecting as a physical body illnesses, as though transferring a virus from one computer onto our own. And so, if we elect to do such, we need be certain of our ability to then work off or burn up the idea karma we have assumed. And I have had and shared a number of real side experiences over the years where I have performed this service for others, or others have done so to myself, where it makes sense to do so, etc. For if we release the tap lines of an individual choosing to remain personal self-consciousness immersed, they will most likely simply re-establish the tap line as generally the cause, the agreement which is effecting it, hasn't been addressed. Through a consciousness they will be utterly clinging to. And so, where it makes sense to afford assistance in this capacity is really with those who intend not to reinsert the tap line we have removed, the agreement we have taken from them and transmuted, such as those on their awareness processes, which involves a progressive releasing and not re-establishing of all ideas of consciousness. This human woman would be one such individual, and the agreement she had afforded me the role as the remover of would be one where the eyesight of her physical body would be compromised if the causal idea was not removed. And I would do so, taking on her idea agreement, but then releasing it, for really, in regards to not being afflicted by that which we take on, as it is with all ideas of creation, we simply recognize its presence, we let it go, we release it into the ears. The scene would switch to where I would now manifest myself into a car being driven by another individual, and where the woman I had healed or removed the agreement effecting malaise from was a passenger. I was intending to check in on her, to follow up on her progress, awareness speaking, perchance to assist her further in whatever supportive way I might. And despite her now being liberated from her debilitating agreement, rather than displaying a gratitude, she would instead accuse me of being a witch or a devil. For indeed, the attachment most prevalent with her had been in regards to a religion, and although she would ultimately have to release this attachment or be creationally bound by it, this was seemingly a rather difficult idea for her to relinquish. She had somewhat flip-flopped then, in reality using any excuse to rebound back into the routines of her personal self and attachments, and that she formulated the consideration that I was a witch or black magician was as good an excuse as any, that she now harboured the notion that the process of awareness, the true reality, etc., was some form of devilry. I would simply shrug and transition through the roof of the car, sprout a pair of wings and take to the sky. For indeed, the woman, now re-embracing her restricting attachment to a religion, was adamant in the eradication of what she considered a demon or a devil, and would rally large numbers of other religious individuals to her cause. They would form a hunting party and pursue me through the various streets, as I maintained my position in the skies above the braying mob on my wings. I would land at one point on the balcony of a random building and be assailed by a number of dark wolves, a rather common expression of the dark forces as reported by myself and others on the real side, generally forms where the secondary self has been established, and this is simply the body type they are assuming. Seemers they had decided to involve themselves in the hunt, but as the outcome of any conflict is agreement dependent, as I lacked agreements in relation to these dark force wolves that they could harm or eliminate me, so they would be unable, and I repelled their efforts, putting down their assault and launching myself once more into the skies on my wings. There was little sense in remaining in this situation. The religious woman may at a later moment decide to re-establish an awareness process she had barely begun before she abandoned it, and when and if she does, the guides are there for her, and her experience, real side, once again, will incorporate other awareness becoming individuals, such as myself, and of a nature that facilitate her awareness. But for now, I would vacate myself from the scene, leaving the woman and her fellow religious zealots behind. I would find myself witnessing another female, human again appearance-wise. She was positioned in an elaborately decorated temple. She was a sorceress of some description, and the purpose the temple served, in conjunction with the magics she was wielding within it, were to establish a contact with a powerful demon and facilitate the means by which he could assume a presence on what impressions revealed was the earth, but an era far back in so-called human history, though no specifics, date-wise, were forthcoming. The demon was one of an ill-intended, destructive persuasion. The sorceress was rather intending that it bestow her with still further powers, and she did indeed manage to evoke the demon, the sense of its ominous, forbidding presence filling the temple interior. If the demon did indeed bestow her with the powers she desired was never revealed, for the scene would switch. In actuality, many centuries would pass, and where the temple had once stood now was a vast complex of modern-style apartments. I had been operating in a real awareness, aside from the simulated situation observing capacity. As such, I presented no form by which my presence could be determined by the sorceress or the demon, but here, in what would be the present era of humanity, I was animating through a form that was inserted into the experience. The sorceress, of course, was long since transitioned, effecting for herself creational positioning in reflected accordance to her general conscious design and inclinations. The demon, however, had remained in the particular location where the temple had once been positioned ever since it was summoned, and as the centuries had rolled by, whatever existed in this spot, structure or people-wise, were the recipients of the demon's unceasing malevolence. As everything we experience is based on agreement, even though a demon, say, may be very powerful in his body form and abilities, that he can express his power adversely over others is dependent on the agreement that this can be so. Absent of the idea, and no simulation can follow, including what can transpire in the experiences between body forms, as what can take place between individuals is according to the agreements they have in association with each other. Powerful demons are only so through agreements they have trod. The more powerful and highly placed they are in creation, the more agreement they have that maintains their position and allows them to utilize their abilities adversely into the experiences of others, through whichever means and mechanism. So this particular demon had virtually the entirety of overall human consciousness in agreement to his power, that allowed that at any moment he could exact this power over any human as he saw fit, as the circumstances allowed. For he was a demon somewhat limited, creationally speaking, in that he was resigned to only certain areas of it, unable to encroach as liberally as other powerfully established body types. His creational limitation in reflected accordance to his consciousness, that's a design of his own devising, had him in this restricting situation. But as the sorceress had effectively opened a portal between the realm he resided in and the earth, so he could alternate between these two creational positions, and delighted in causing as much mayhem as possible. Although, just as he was limited to a certain creational dark dimension he hailed from, the nature of the portal available to him had him restricted to the area where the temple had once been. As I said, whatever then was built on the temple's site would be the recipient of his unquenchable desire for destruction of not only any structures, but of any humans within the parameter of the area he was limited to, as though his body form could only operate within certain frequencies, and the portal rather had the area of the earth it opened onto somewhat converted to a frequency more conducive to supporting his body form, a frequency therefore as that which was of the dimension he hailed from. And in this current moment, with the temple's site now boasting an apartment complex, seems the demon would re-establish itself again, making use of the portal, and almost like a horror movie, everything descended into a chaos and became a bloodbath, as the demon would slay the human tenants in the most gruesome manner possible. I would decide to establish myself in an investigative capacity, presenting myself as a detective of a kind to the frightened humans who suddenly found themselves in the midst of the carnage as exacted by the demon. Though no human present had laid eyes on the demon and lived to tell the tale, but I assured them I would get to the bottom of this affair and set things to rights. In reality, I was going to confront the demon and politely suggest he conduct himself in a less abrasive manner, that although everything he was able to do, and every human able to kill, was based on agreements that allowed that he could, he still would be the effects of his life choices, effects that could be managed. He could be phantom zone displaced as an example, as an alternative to the effects he would have experienced in reflected measure to his chosen destructiveness, which would prevent his ability to be able to harm others as was his thrill and sensation. But with these powerful individuals, through their capability and the influence they can wield, the agreements they have, etc., so can they be very instrumental in regards to our galactic projects, etc. Every situation is an opportunity, and so was the option to present this demon with another possibility, that he could operate in life and awareness beneficial ways, as opposed to destructive, and then being resigned to equally as abrasive circumstances for himself. And in reality, regardless of the body forms and how the consciousness has been developed, underlying it all will be real awareness, with the same ears recognizing imperative ultimately, and our primary objective is to share the opportunity of the ears indiscriminately throughout multi-dimensional creation. And so, as the self-proclaimed investigator, I would determine to make contact with this demon, to engage with him, and potentially redirect his life choices to that which serves as more beneficial. For indeed, as the demon made use of the portal, so that which it connected to, the particular area of the earth where the apartment complex now was, would become more so in energetic and vibrational alignment with the dark dimension he hailed from. For there would be periods of time, of centuries, where the demon would remain in his own dark realm, if, say, nothing had been created, structure-wise, and inhabited by humans, within the area he was limited to, that would provide him his amusement, and as the portal was abandoned for certain durations, although always maintaining its presence, this aligning of the two positions, his realm and the earth area the portal opened onto, would be lessened. But as he now was making frequent and consistent use of the portal, the area of the earth it opened onto, the apartment complex, now was becoming progressively as forbidding as the dismal region of creation the demon hailed from, a steadily expanding inky blackness settling over the area, and where sections of it were phasing in and out as though graphics that struggle to be rendered on the screen, and on occasion certain parts of the apartment complex becoming momentarily devoid of colour, as though becoming a photographic negative, or a colour movie becoming as black and white. The experience would end there, however, before I had my audience with the demon. Undoubtedly, I would encounter him at some point. The overall situation, based on agreement, as everything in creation will be, but which presented as opportunity, where the engaging with another powerful being was made possible. And maybe I will be shown more of my attempted interaction with this particular bloodthirsty, though evidently very bored demon, as he whittles away his simulator time in the abrasive manner that he does.
Ta-da! That's cool, Kevin. And yes, like in the beginning there, as we present this to people, no, it's never easy because it becomes a bigger picture than, becomes a lot more than what people realize. And getting them to the point where they understand and see what's going on in the world, aside from their personal attachments, and getting through that takes a lot and a lot of years. And so that's where people go back and forth. That's where I've seen them come and go, because they'll reach a certain point, and it's everything's available to people. It's just learning to let it go, to let it be okay, to become more aware and get that freeness that people are looking for. But it's a hurdle for all of us to get through this. Yes. And what you're describing and presenting, it really helps a lot. I really like it. It's great. Yes. Thank you so much, Kevin, for doing this and taking the time. It's a lot. Thank you.